Okay, so on this one, it is a similar question, and hopefully you got to the point where you can do this without checking the video, but just in case, I'm going to go ahead and record it. I'm starting to feel a little crazy talking to myself for 2 hours, but that's okay. We have f and f prime in the table for selected values of x, and then g is a different function that uses f, and uses f in a way where we have a chain rule situation when we find g prime, and we have a quotient rule situation. So this one is pretty challenging. You just have to really pay attention to what you're doing. So we'll do the quotient rule and do the chain rule all together. So we're going to do low and then d high. So when we multiply by d high, we do f prime of x squared and then multiply by the derivative of x squared. All right, and then minus high, we're going to leave alone. And then d low, the derivative of e to the x is e to the x. And then we'll have e to the x squared. All right, don't mess with that. Leave it just like it is, and then go and plug in -1. So we have e to the -1 times f prime -1 squared is 1 times 2 times -1 is -2. All right, minus f of -1 squared is 1, and then e to the -1 over e to the -1 squared. All right, now I recommend that you leave these e's to the -1 alone. Don't try to write them as e over 1 and try to combine things. It will just be a mess. Just unnecessary work, or where you could make a mistake. But we do need to figure out what f prime of 1 and f of 1 are, and we can get that from the table. So f prime of 1 is 4/3. And f of 1 is 2/3. And then stop. Don't do more where you might make a mistake and lose your points. That is what they're looking for. They don't care if you can multiply those together. Unless they tell you to write it in simplest form, stop. All right, then for this one, we have another function h, and h involves compositions. So this is similar to when we did on the first free response question. So h prime of x is going to be f prime of f of -2x, and then multiply by, I'll change colors, multiply by the derivative of the inside, so it's going to be f prime of -2x, and then lastly multiply by the derivative of -2x, which is -2. Alright, then we'll take that and we'll put in 1 for all your x's. Alright, and then we can find those values from the table. You can stop. We're at, oh wait, no, we can't. Sorry, we need to figure out what this is. Okay, now you can stop right here if you want to. If you multiply that together, you do get 2/3, but that is not calculus, multiplying those fractions together. So if you stop there, you'll get full credit. Okay. All right. So now we have k, and k is the product of f and the arc sine of x over 2. So we do need to know the derivative of the arc sine, or be able to find it quickly. Okay, so in the place of x squared, we are going to have, in place of x, sorry, we are going to have to put in x over 2. And then because that is not an x, we are going to have to do the chain rule like we did on the first problem. Okay, so we are going to have to do chain rule, kind of a hard derivative, and the product rule all together on this one. So it is going to be challenging, and this is something I would expect them to give you guys, since they know you're going to use your notes, and probably a calculator. I don't know about that. They're gonna not make these easy questions. All right, so the product rule, we're gonna have f of x times the derivative of this arc sine. So that's going to be 1 over the square root of 1 minus, and then in the place of where we have x, we're going to have to put in x over 2. And then because that wasn't just an x, we have to multiply by the derivative of x over 2, which is 1/2. All right, and then plus, and then leave this arc sine alone. And then multiply it by the derivative of f. Okay. Then, sorry, we'll go back, and we're finding k prime of -1. So all of our x's, we will make -1. Whoops. I'm starting to lose it. All right. So I am not going to worry with simplifying much of anything, but I am going to go ahead and find what f of -1 is from the table. That is something they are going to expect you to do. I'm going to leave this fraction, this crazy looking fraction, just like it is, because I don't want to mess anything up and lose my point. We technically could find the arc sine of -1/2. That is something that you can do using your brain. I'll tell you what it is in a second. But f prime of -1 is 6/5. So you can stop right here. Leave this as messy as you want to leave it. Like on the test, you're going to be pressed for time, and I would definitely stop. The arc sine of -1/2 is, let's see, it would be -5/6, because that is, if we took the sine of this, we get 1/2, or we get -1/2. But again, that is not going to be necessary on this calculus exam. And if it is, then hopefully you can use the calculator. I just don't think you're going to have to do that, unless they grade it differently than they've ever graded it before. All right, so I hope you guys are hanging in there. The next unit, we're going to apply some of these derivatives to different things. But good luck, keep working, keep emailing me.